Hello and welcome back to this new section. This is the last section of this course, but this is the most important section. We are going to build real life scenario integrations using the Azure integration offerings like LogicApps and Functions, right? So this is the most important section. Make sure you completed all of the previous sections before you get started here, because the previous four sections were the building blocks and they were most important and they are needed. They're kind of a prerequisite before we can move on to the actual integration scenarios, right? So let's quickly recap what we've done so far, right? The first section was Logic App, right? In Logic App, we saw that you can basically visually orchestrate your entire workflow, and the browser is your developer tool, right? There are connectors to connect with almost every system out there. And if you don't have the ready-made connector, you can always build your own connector, or you can use APIs to connect to any other system, right? So you can use Logic Apps as a designer workflow to orchestrate your business process. You can automate a lot of your business processes using Logic App. You can also very easily integrate a lot of other Azure services in Logic App because they all are built upon the same platform. For example, functions, right? So functions was the second section right after the Logic Apps, right? Functions is one of the key serverless offerings by Azure, right? And as we saw that you can build your business code, you can write your business logic in the language of your choice and then host it in the Azure functions, right? And Azure functions are elastic by nature. You don't have to worry about how much processing power it has, where is it being hosted, how much memory it needs, right? You don't have to worry about any of those things because the functions are basically the serverless offerings from Azure. So if you have built some business logic in Azure functions, if there are 100 people asking for that logic, it would just serve those 100 people and Azure would charge you for that 100 requests. And in the next hour, if there were 100,000 people asking for that function, right, or accessing that function, Azure would happily provide all of those 100,000 people or 100,000 requests without any problem, right? So that was the beauty of functions. You can get started very easily and you just need to focus on building your business logic rather than focusing about the infrastructure behind that. The next most important section was ServiceBus, right? ServiceBus is very crucial, and if you are going to work in an organization as an integration developer or an integration architect, it's highly likely that you would use ServiceBus in your applications, because not every application is a real-time interface. Not every application allows you a real-time interface, and not every enterprise application needs a real-time interface, right? So in such scenarios, you can use the ServiceBus, and the ServiceBus has two main components. There are three main components: relays, queues, and topics, but we are not focusing on relays for this chapter. The two components that we are looking at are the queues and topics, right? So queues and topics, they have the exact same functionality. They are the temporary storage of your data, of your messages, right? And the only difference between queues and topics are that in queues, there can be one sender and one receiver. In the topics, there can be one sender, but there can be multiple receivers, and those receivers are called subscriptions, right? So you can mix and match both of these based on your requirement, which we will do in the coming videos in this section, and we'll leverage the ServiceBus queues and topics. And the fourth major building block was the API management, right? We've just completed the API management, so I hope it's fresh, but let me still give you a quick recap what we've done in the API management. So When your organization has hundreds of APIs, right, and when you want the outside world or the other developers to be able to use your APIs, you don't want to simply let them access your APIs directly, right? You want to have some kind of middle layer in between, right? A kind of facade that handles or that streamlines access to all of your APIs. And that's the API gateway via the API management tool. So when you create this API gateway, you're streamlining access to all of your APIs behind the scenes, right? And when you use this API gateway, it also creates the developer portal for you. So you don't have to draft your documents in Word or PDF and then keep on exchanging over the emails. You can just document everything right there on the developer portal. You can let the developers know what kind of request each API needs. What is the security mechanism, how they can test that. You can let your developers access the sample code from that developer portal, and a lot of things are streamlined with API management. So we have already covered these four major building blocks of this course. Make sure you understood all of these four major building blocks, because we're going to make use of all four of them in the actual hands-on exercises in this section, right? I hope you're excited about this, because the real life scenarios will give you the view of what an actual integration looks like. Until now, we've just covered the independent building blocks, but when we put all of them together and when we see the actual business case and when we translate that into an interface that uses LogicApps and functions and ServiceBus and API management, it would all make sense to you, right? Let's go ahead and get started. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.